Hey guys, so today we are going to look at this special attributes called ref in React. Spells REF, short form for references. What it does, it allows you to access one element, a DOM element that is, from another element. There are a lot of important use cases where you want to do that. So we're going to look at those use cases and when to use them and when not to use them. We're going to also look at when you have a nested components. So if you are trying to access a particular DOM element from a top component to a lower level component, how to do that as well. By the way, this video is part of a much larger series on React. So if you want to try it from the beginning, or if you're looking for a specific topic, I might have it. I'll provide a link here to the entire playlist so you can check it out. And welcome to techsith tutorial. All right, so let's start. So I've created this project using create React app package, and I've just removed all the garbage from the app.js so that we have a slim project. So I usually like to, work on a very slim project. So whatever the concept I'm explaining can be easily be explained without all the other distractions or styles and all that stuff. So let's try to understand refs. Why do we want to use refs? Let's say if I have a form and if I have a bunch of fields and a submit button. Usually if I want to type something in the first field, I have to click on the field, type something in. When I'm done, I would click on the second field, type something in, and once I'm done, I would click on the submit button, right? But what if you don't want to use a mouse and you just want a user to type something in and click enter, and that should move your focus to the next field, and you enter something in the second field and then click enter, and that should focus to the third field, and then enter to focus and submit, and then you just enter again, that would submit the button, right? So you're not using mouse at all. You can use the tabs to do that, but most of the people are comfortable with the enter button, and sometimes that is a requirement. There is no easy way to do it but using the refs. So we're gonna build an application exactly what I explained, and then we're gonna use refs to access those elements and move the focus. Okay, I'm going to create a div. Inside the div, I'm going to create some span. It will say first name, and inside I would have an input, and it would be type text, and I can have multiple of such fields, so last name and maybe age. So this should be, let's say, last name, and this should be age. Okay, and in the end I can have not an input field but type, let's say, submit, and its value is also equal to submit. So let's look at how these fields look like. So I'm going to compile using npm start, and I have this form, and it looks quite ugly. I haven't added any styles, but that's fine. We are here to learn refs, not the style sheet, right? And so now if I, let's say, enter the first name, John, if I click on enter, nothing happens, right? I have to really manually click here, and let's say his last name is also Johnson. Nothing happens. I have to enter the age, 20, and then I can click on submit. Right now I don't have any functionality, so nothing would happen, right? Build the functionality so that I can move focus when I click on enter. So we're gonna use refs for that. So here we're gonna add an attribute called ref for the first input. It's going to be equal to, now if you used old React, in old React you used to do that. Old means, React is not that old, so maybe like a year ago, you can do something like this. Okay, and then you can access this element by this.refs.first name or this.refs.last name. But this is deprecated. You cannot do that anymore. So do not use it. Instead, you need to use a callback function. And so the way you would write it is just a function that sets some sort of property for this class. So let's say this is, we call input, and inside we create a new property called first name, and we're gonna set this first name equal to the input. So which is nothing but the reference to this input element. So it's actually reference to the DOM element. Now the main important question is, when does this callback function gets called? So for that we have to look at the lifecycle hooks in React. So React has two main lifecycle hooks, component will mount and component did mount. So before component mounts, the component will mount lifecycle hook would run. And then when component mounts, the component did mount would lifecycle hook would run. So this callbacks run before the component did mounts. When it's mounted, this first name is ready for you to use. Okay, which is important to know. And if you want to know more about the lifecycle hooks, I have a tutorial. I'll provide a link here on the top, so you can know about all the lifecycle hooks and how they work. Okay. In order to test this, since we have a submit button here, I can write an on-click event. Well, usually there is an on-submit event, but I'm just going to say on-click event, and I can create a handle called on-click, which I haven't created yet. Let's make this a little bit readable. And so I'm going to create a handle here on click equal to, it's an arrow function. And as I said, after the component is mounted, this should be this callback would run, and it would set this first name to the input element, which is the first name element. Okay, so if I do just a console log this dot first name, I should be able to see, what this element looks like. So let's compile it. Oh, here I have to actually, I wrote it inside the render function, which is bad. I should do it out. I should do it here. All right, so here, if I type, let's say John, and click on submit, I would see this input element, type text, and if I look further, there's a shadow DOM inside, and I can see the value John. Well, the shadow DOM, if you don't know about, it's basically for scoped CSS, and you have a value John. So if I wanna just to get the value out, I can actually do it here. So I can say this dot first name dot value, and that should give me the value of the input box. So now if I type John and click on submit, I would get John. And just to know that you could get the value out. If you want to use it or not, it's up to you. You have to be careful when you want to use it. But our objective is not to get the value. Our objective is to actually access the element and set the focus. Okay. Now I'm going to add this to every element with a different ref. And this should be actually last name. This should be age. And I can actually add a reference to the submit button as well. I'm going to call it submit. But that should not change any functionality. If I, nothing, still things doesn't work, right? Here, when I click enter after entering in the first field. So what I need to do is now, when I click enter, I need to move the focus to the next field. So for an input box, there is an event called onKeyUp. So I'm going to add it here, onKeyUp. Equal to, it has to be some handle. So let's just call it onKeyUp handle. So this should be this dot onKeyUp. Okay. So we need to create this handle here. So let's create it on key up equal to, and all right. So what happens when you do on key up? So every time you click on a key, this should get executed, and then as an argument you get the actually key. well, you get the event and then you can access the key from the event. So here if I simply do console log e dot key code, this should give me which key I actually press. So let's do that. So now if I press any key, J, it's giving me 74, A, it's giving me 65, but if I do enter, it's giving me 13. So this is what I want. So only when I hit enter, I want to do something. So I can have if key code is 13, which means I have entered the enter key, then I want to do something. What do I want to do? Well, I want to focus on the next field. Well, this is only one event, so right now I've entered event into the first name. So let's just focus on the second, which is the last name, right? So I can access the last name from here, and all I have to do is focus. This is actually a JavaScript event, right? So let's save this, and so now if I say John and enter, it goes to the second field. But if I enter something else, it doesn't still go. So I need to do something about it. So now I can add this, I can add actually different event. I can say first name key up, last name key up, and age key up, and then each would basically hard code it, say, oh, go to here, go to here, go to here, right? I don't want to do that. I just want to use one handle. So what I'm going to do is here, I can actually pass an argument that this is the first name. So in order to pass an argument, I can do this way, bind this, and I can pass some argument. I'm just going to say first name. Now there might be a better way to do it, but I'm just going to use this way. Okay, so what this would do is when I do key up on this one, it should give me not only the event here, but it should give me this text called this is actually a first name. So I know that I need to go to last name from here. So here I can get let's say target and E. I can have a switch statement, switch, and I can pass the target, and inside I can build a case. So if it's like a first name, then it should this dot last name dot focus. Let's say if it's a last name, then I want this dot age to be focus. What if it's age? Then I want this dot submit to be focused. All right. By default, I always want to go this dot first name be focus, and you need to add a break here and otherwise it will go to every single one of them. So we need to add this to every single box here. So here I'm just gonna say last name, age, and submit. All right, let's see what happens. So John, enter, fine. Johnson, enter, fine. 12 age, fine, and then submit. Voila, it's done. And the on submit button, we can simply say, can use an alert. I usually don't like to use alert, but we'll say, yay, this dot first name submitted. Let's put an exclamation mark and a smiley face. So John, Johnson, submitted. I need to say value. Here also value. John, enter. Johnson, enter. 34, enter, enter. Got it. So it works. It says John submitted. Well, I did the first name again, but anyway. So they should be actually last name. But anyway, you get the point. All right, so this is actually a class component. What if I have a stateless functional component? How does this thing work in a stateless functional component? And also I want to look at the when you have a nested component, how can you access from the higher level component? from the higher level component element inside the lower level component. So let's build a functional component first. All right, so for that, I'm going to call it functional custom component equal to, I have some random component, returns, and yes, it has to have at least one parent. I need to wrap it with a div. You can actually use fragments if you want to. I have a tutorial in fragments if you want to know how to do it. All right, so now I have this function custom component, and if I render it here just inside the app, all right, it even looks much uglier. So I have my input and then some submit button. All right, let's fix that. And so it's in a one line. So let's put both of them in a one line so that now here I want to access this input field from this button, right? So I can also create a ref here equal to. Now, because it's a functional component, it's a little bit different. So yes, I need to create a callback function, and inside I have to do the same thing, input, and here I have to create some sort of a reference here. Before, when I create like this dot first name, it automatically creates it, but it's a functional component, so I have to actually initialize this as a null. So I have to say input ref equal to null. And inside here now I can say input ref equal to input. So it gives me the reference to that input saved inside this input ref. And now if I have, let's say, on click event here, on click, and if I define it here on click equal to, so here if I try to access this input ref, all I have to do is input ref dot, let's say if I just want to focus on that, right? Focus. Let's say how it works. All right, so now if I click on here, as I can see, my focus goes here. Let's say my focus is right now here. If I click on here, it goes here. So it works. Now, what if I move this input into another subcomponent, a nested, so I can create a nested component, and then we're going to understand how to actually pass the reference from one component to another. So here I'm just going to create another stateless component called my, let's say, input equal to, so many functions. Okay, and all it does is basically return this guy here, and here I can simply use this tag, but now it would fail because I kind of messed things up, because now it doesn't really have access, this button doesn't have access to this element, because now the reference is inside the my input. So to fix that, what I have to do is, actually I need to create another reference here inside. So I can just take this and I can create this input ref here, and then I'm passing this input ref into here as a prop, and inside all I have to do is props dot input ref. That's all I need to do, and that should work. So now let's say my focus is here. If I click on here, it comes here. By the way, I'm gonna put this code onto my GitHub site, so you can download it from there and check it out. I'll provide the link in the description. By the way, I have some more React tutorials. If you want to check it out, this is the playlist. The first tutorial is just an introduction to React, then introduction to JSX, how to do it. Then I have class versus function component. We use a functional component today. So if you want to know more about them, I have a detail over here. Then obviously states and props, two-way binding. I have a component communication where you can communicate parent to grandfather, to siblings and all that stuff. If you want to create list, I have a tutorial on that. Fragments, these are some of the advanced topics. So let's say if you usually in a component you have to have like one parent element. If you don't want to have it, you can use fragments. It would help you simplify your CSS. Today we covered the lifecycle hooks so that you can do it. I have pure components, which are really interesting, and how to do the React router. So I'll provide a link at the end and also in the description so you can check it out. Also, if you're learning pure JavaScript and if you want to learn object-oriented programming in JavaScript, I have a whole series on it. I start with the constructor, how to do prototype and some of the methods like object.create, how to extend the constructor, set prototype of, object or assign method that allows you to do mixins and object creations, function mixins, ES6 classes, subclasses, static methods, and if you used like Angular, there are decorators, so I also included that. So you can also check this series out. If you go to my channel page, there should be a bunch of playlists. You can check those out. And I hope you learned something from this tutorial. If you did, please like, subscribe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and provide a nice comment. Thank you.